Right, so now it's being recorded. So later on, you can watch it again in case you would want that. So I'll share my screen and we can go with today's topic. So the topic for today's webinar would be budgeting and forecasting, best practices for a new financial year we're about to start. Before we'll dive into today's presentation and today's demo, let us first introduce ourselves. I'll start with myself. My name is Alex Keselman. I'm a solutions engineer at ApprovalMax. And for the past 4 years, my main job was to listen to our customers, our potential customers, understand their challenges, and implement automation technology in their day-to-day business. I also do have a special guest with me today, Harry. Over to you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your role in the business.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Harry. I'm a business development specialist here at Fathom. I look after the EMEA, and basically, similar to Alex, if you're interested in sort of automating a few processes, if you sort of look at Fathom, I'll take you right from introducing you to the product, building up that sort of knowledge, seeing if it's a great fit for you, and hopefully getting you on board and helping you and your organization out.
Great having you here. All right, let's start with an agenda just to understand what to expect from today's session. We'll start with a short intro. We have a few questions to you guys, to the audience, just to understand where you're coming from and what are the app stack that you're using. We'll cover that very soon. Then we'll go into the budgeting basics. Why do you need it and how to set it up? So most of you, I believe, already know the way how to set up the budgets and why do you need budgets in the first place. But it's a good start for us to understand what are the main challenges so we can then proceed to the actual topic for today's discussion. Once we'll cover that, we'll move to the main part of today's presentation, and that it will be essential tips and tools to get ahead with your budget planning for this financial year. So we'll start on how to create your budgets and how to read the data by using tools such as Fathom. And then we'll also take a look on how to control your spend with the tool like ApprovalMax using the budget check-in feature. Then we'll wrap it up just to give you some of the budgeting useful tips. And at the very end, we'll have Q&A section where we'll try to answer all of your questions. Though I would highly encourage you to use Q&A sections straight away and ask all of your questions along the way. We have several supporting engineers here on the background who can help you with some of these questions. And at the same time, just simply so we won't miss anything, go ahead and ask your questions along the way. All right, I think the goals are set. Now we can move on to the actual demo, to the actual presentation. And let's start with one of our polls. We have actually several of them. So I will start poll number 1. You should be able to see that on your screen, so feel free to answer whatever you feel relevant to your business. Awesome, thank you very much. Well, that's what an engagement. Just 3 seconds has passed, well, 10 seconds already, but we already got more than half of the audience. Perfect. So we'll keep it live for another maybe 20-30 seconds. So feel free to make your decision on this one. All right, almost 80% already. I love it. Sometimes, you run the poll and it's like takes so much time to people get engaged and you're like, oh, come on, guys, just one more vote. We're closing to the 50%, but today is the great audience. All right, I'm closing this poll and I will share the results with you. And as we can see here, majority of you somehow ready to the new financial year, which is great. So at least we have the audience who knows what they're talking about and what they're doing. And hopefully some of the tools and tips that we're going to talk about today will help you even better, to help you prepare even better. I see also 30% of you already well prepared. So maybe, well, hopefully you will find something useful today. And 10% of you are not using any budgets yet. So hopefully today's session will change your mind. All right. So now let's start the second poll that we have. And that will be about the tools that you're using. If you can tell us a bit about the app stack so we can then maybe tailor our demo in a bit more specific way, that would be perfect. All right, awesome. Already 50% and only 15 seconds has passed. Well, Harry, you'll have a hard time. I see the vast majority of audience already using Fathom.
So I'll leave now, I think.
Yeah. All right, maybe a few more. We're about to reach 90% of participation. Okay, I think we can actually stop here. We're about to reach 85%. So end the poll and I'll share the results with you. So as you can see here, majority of you already using Zero and Fathom. So, well, hopefully you'll find some additional information about how to use that even better. And I see that only a small portion of the audience is using ApprovalMax. So then I hope that would be a great chance for me to show you the beauty of the spend control and the beauty of the multi-step, multi-level approval workflows. All right. So now let's stop sharing the results and let's go into the actual presentation. And let's start with a simple question. Why do you need a budget in the first place? That might be quite an obvious thing, but again, not everyone using the budgets, not everyone creating the budgets, and it might be a great way to start that. So why do we need a budget in the first place? Well, first of all, to estimate the revenue. It will be very hard to understand how much money we've made if we don't predict any numbers ahead and if we don't plan anything ahead. Therefore, making sure that you have already planned for the new financial year is an essential way to create a positive revenue at the end of the year. Then also ensuring that money is allocated to support the strategic objective of the business. It makes perfect sense. We can allocate specific money on the fixed costs, on the variable costs, and so on. And of course, the plan expenses and restrict spending that is not part of the plan, because sometimes lots of things comes in. We want to spend money on all kind of different things. So maybe a budget will be a great way to control your spend. However, I do have a data specialist and budget expert, Harry, with me here. And Harry, from your professional expertise, in terms of the customers that you're working with, why do they find it essential to keep the budget, to create a budget, and how do they actually utilize that?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're probably going to hear this word quite a lot today from myself is insights. Being able to, first of all, build a budget, like you say, with those key points, estimating revenue, ensuring that the money's all in the right place, and sort of plan for what's coming. Having that insight into your business and being able to sort of plan for any eventuality is key to sort of forward looking success. It's great being able to look at the actual performance over the past few months, but also using that to then project forward is something that is in my opinion invaluable to any organization.
All right. In terms of how would we actually create our budgets, there is typically 4 simple steps. I believe you all know how to create a budget, so it's more like to wrap it up and to reiterate on what we've discussed and just making sure what will be our next steps. So the first one will be just to estimate your revenue, considering all the costs, fixed and variable, that you have, and just to predict how much money you're going to make this year compared to the numbers that you had last year. Once we have that, we can estimate our fixed costs, so everything that we're not going to change, all of our rents and maybe salaries and things like that. Then we can add the variable costs, which are constantly changing, so that will be more of an estimation, but it will give us a rough idea of what to expect and what we should add into our budgets to make it much easier for us later on to navigate through these numbers. And of course, once we'll put it all together, we'll have a budget for the new financial year. But the main part here is to use the right tools. And here I would like to hand over mic over to Harry to talk about Fathom and how Fathom can help you with creating these budgets, how you can forecast it, and what kind of insights you can receive from using the platform. So Harry, over to you.
No, thank you. Thanks again for having me. And like I say, we're going to touch on a few basics and jump into program just to show you some of the. It obviously won't be a full full-blown demo, but it will show you some of the niche parts that will really help in terms of building that budget and also forecasting forward. So yeah, Fathom, powerfully simple financial analysis, reporting, budgeting, and forecasting. So a little bit about Fathom. As you can see, our purpose, it's to give clarity and confidence to everyone within business, everyone behind the scenes, just to make those sort of decisions moving forward. So we partner with accountants, advisors, bookkeepers, and also businesses directly on a global scale. We are a top-rated app for the Xero, QuickBooks, and MyOB marketplaces. And we've actually recently just celebrated our 10 years in market. So we have been around for a little while and are established. And we are, as you can see, trusted by over 60,000 companies in over 80 countries too. So yes, in terms of the ecosystem, as you can see here, with Fathom, you do have a direct integration into QuickBooks, Xero, and MyOB. So in terms of getting that data set up and running into Fathom, it is super quick and easy. This does also include an automatic everyday update in terms of that data. So obviously, when we're going to be discussing the forecasting side of sort of budget and forecasting, that makes things super easy on your end to amend. So in terms of your business toolkit, we do have a number of sort of tools within Fathom. So the analysis dashboard, I'll just touch on these briefly. You can set up some custom KPIs and you can track those and sort of track current business performance month on month and see it in a really nice visual way with our dashboards. Reporting, whether it's a board pack, whether it's management accounts, you can tie everything together in a really nice white labeled report as well. Obviously, we're going to be talking about the budgeting and forecasting. And we also do some benchmarking and consolidations for you as well. So a budget versus forecast. So as Alex said earlier, I'm sure a lot of you know about budgeting and how to do it and things like that. But I just want to touch on a couple of points here. And as you can see, if we go through the budget, it can be used as sort of a goal or an ideal position to get the business to for the financial year you're looking at. It also acts as a great comparison for your actual data and then sort of comparing that as you roll through the financial year to sort of see how far off you are with your actual performance compared with what you budgeted at the start. And it does typically remain static for the year for the purpose of that comparison. Whereas then when we look at forecasting, we can use that to actually project sort of where we're going, whether that is based off sort of historical performance and sort of certain variables we can project with that. And it does update frequently. So that's sort of the big difference as well, is it's always continually updating. And you can sort of amend different, whether it's your targets or whatever it may be, based off that continuous update. So Fathom forecasting, as it says here, it is multi-use. So you can use it to both build a budget and also forecast, which straight away as a benefit to that, it's having it all in one place. We don't want you to have a budget in one, one tab over there, your forecasts are elsewhere, your actuals somewhere else. Keeping it all in one place will just make your lives so much easier. And at the end of the day, that is what Fathom's here for. That's what ApprovalMax is here for, to help you guys out and just make lives easier. So with building forecast in our tool, which, as I said, we're going to jump into shortly. Once you've built that baseline, you think, right, that is our financial year budget. You do have the ability to save that straight into Fathom and then go in and get those comparisons, your actuals versus budget month on month, things like that. And then also in the same place, having it update continuously with your forecasting, you can then sort of get a really nice comparison of, well, this is what we originally were looking at. this is now sort of where we're heading with the new data that's coming in on a monthly basis, and you really get some insights. Again, there's that word, insights into how you're performing, what you're expecting to reach in, whether it's 6, 12, 18 months down the line. So product demonstration, yes. If I now go into sharing my screen, like I say, we will touch on just some of the key points that Fathom have, and how we can sort of help with building that budget. So share. Hopefully that is now coming through and everyone can see it. Cool, fantastic. So what we've come to here is our main grid. So it is a 3-way cash flow forecast on a month-by-month basis. As you can see up here, we're on a P&L. We've got a balance sheet cash flow statement as well. And we also have a tab for drivers. So if some of you use Excel currently for your budgeting needs, basically you can still have a formula-based forecast within Fathom. So if you've got your very neat formulas all set up, you can still carry them over. So don't worry, it won't all be lost. I'll just touch on the basics initially before going elsewhere. So you can apply value rules to the whole of your revenue accounts or your cost of sales accounts, whatever it may be. But what you can also do is go in a line by line basis and create your rules. If you want a different rule every single month as well, you really can build out your budget to exactly what you need and get really sort of granular with this detail. It is worth noting that this demo company is a cafe, hence the coffee, food, and tea accounts, just as a heads up. But what I want to touch on is where you can get a bit more unique with Fathom's forecasting is I'm going to go to our roadmap for this. Now, what the roadmap is, it's a place where we can map out one-off business decisions. So whereas before you might be currently budgeting on sort of just a company-wide scale and not sort of going into necessarily the details, or accountants, you may have a client that comes to you and says, right, we're looking at an asset purchase in the next year. We're also looking at hiring 3 new members of staff. Can we do it? Can we afford it? What's the impact going to be? The micro forecast is where you'll come to map that out. And the roadmap is great because it basically contextualizes everything for you. So for example, this cafe might be looking at its land purchase at the beginning of 2024, but what about if we want that earlier on in this year? I can drag and drop this and pull it earlier to May. And as you can see, well, if you do that, you're going to be in serious trouble for a number of months. So probably not worth doing that. So you can then put that back, but we can play around and say, let's pull forward this delivery van. What about this barista as well, but push back the area manager? And what these are doing at the bottom here, these are called our quick metrics. I can have up to 5 of these, and they're the key numbers I want to keep an eye on as I'm building out my forecast. Any change, anything I do, they'll spin up instantly. And what's nice in terms of actually building a forecast, you get that instant feedback. You sort of know where your numbers are going to be heading without having to, again, jump to and from different screens or different programs. It's all right in front of you. I do want to take you through the process of creating one of these because it can sort of, obviously, it's all well and good me showing the roadmap and it all spinning up. But if I just hit create micro forecast, and maybe this cafe is going to want a coffee manager, I can select a category. So staff hires I've got in, but I'm actually going to make that capital. And as you've seen, the start date isn't set in stone. We can really change that about quite a lot, entirely up to you. So I'll just choose June of this year and hit create. And Fathom does try and help you out as much as possible with these areas. So as you can see, for the more perhaps common business decisions, we do have starting points. So I'm going to jump straight into hire an employee, fill out their salary and wage, then choose the expense account, which I know is salaries and wages in my case. Click next. What you can do is you can also set up tax types within your forecast. and you can apply it to relevant accounts. So in my case, I've got a couple of set up, and it's going to apply automatically without me having to do it myself. So again, just another small automation that will really help you out moving forward. And add to micro forecast. We're taken to this coffee manager's own main page where we can see all the movements. So you can get obviously a wide forecast and obviously budget for that. But this is where you can start budgeting for literally individual staff hires. We can see all the movements that this is having on the numbers. And if I just expand my quick metrics, obviously at the moment, there's no incoming. So in an ideal world, this coffee manager is going to improve some revenue for me. So up in the top right, I can hit add account. And hopefully it is going to be the coffee account. Otherwise, it might not be the best hire. Click add. And it brings it in as a new line, where if I just hit the first cell on the right-hand side, up pops the value rules, which again, we've tried to keep it uniform throughout. From building out those value rules for overall accounts, we've pulled it across into the individual micro forecasts as well. So you're not sort of navigating new screens and new functionalities all the time. I'm going to choose a constant / growing, 1,500 a month with an increase of 5%. So create rule, and you can see it all spins up instantly and gives me those numbers. And things like the quick metrics, again, in terms of giving those insights, I can scroll across here and see, well, actually, whether it's with a client or you know, yourself as a business owner, we don't start making money on this staff hire until, you know, March of 2025. Is it worth it? Can we wait that long? What's the impact going to be? So obviously we've whizzed through that, but it's where Fathom can come in and really help you budget for not just your overall financial year. We can now go in and look at the impact of staff hires, you know, asset purchases, any loans that are going to be coming in. And if I hit the back arrow, we can see now that that coffee manager is ready to be used in exactly the same way. Now, the final point I want to get to before ending the small demo is our scenarios. So you do get unlimited scenarios, and this is where one of the slides of, you know, that budget versus forecast comes in with Fathom. Now, I can go in and I can save this. Say I've built my main forecast. I'm super happy with it. All these business decisions. Yeah, I want this to be my budget and remain static for the financial year. I can save that in Fathom as just that. But also what I want to do maybe is say, well, hang on. I need a worst case scenario. I mean, I'm sure it's no secret to anyone over the last 2-3 years that being able to plan for unforeseen circumstances or crazy what if situations is becoming more and more important. So you can see I've got best case and worst case set up here. I've got, say there's going to be a residential development, supply cost increase, whatever it may be. These are like branches off of your main forecast. And it's a way of almost hitting the save button on your main forecast as well. Because what I can do with this is on this roadmap up in the top right, if I hit this cloud button, I can say, well, let's jump to that residential development. And it takes me, and actually we can see straight away, well, this actually looks like it's having a great impact on the numbers. I can now go around and change these here. But everything I now change only takes a hold on this scenario that I've created. So that main forecast is safe and sound, not touched. And then the power comes in terms of being able to jump to and from different scenarios and work on multiple forecasts for your financial year or the next 3 years, all in one place again. I can jump, and you'll see worst case is I haven't got my roadmap, but if I go to my forecast, it makes for pretty horrible reading. So we want to avoid that worst case. But again, it just gives that deeper insight into many different scenarios that you can have. And then you can present that, whether it is in that board pack or management accounts that I mentioned, showing all your various scenarios. So again, I know I've jumped around a lot there, but I just really wanted to focus on a couple of the key points that really can help in terms of those business decisions, giving you that sort of security moving forward in both building a budget and keeping that static, but also regularly updating your, whether it's strategy or plans for the coming financial year. And I will stop sharing.
I have to admit, Harry, I'm in love with these roadmaps and scenarios. Me and my wife, we are now planning a big move, and we're doing this manual Excel spreadsheet with all the incomes and all the expenses that we're planning to make, and it's a nightmare. It's like when I'm seeing this forecast and the road, I was like, why shouldn't I just make it this way? It's so much easier and so much more visual. Just straight away see what's happening there, and what is the worst case scenario, what is the best case scenario. It's amazing.
No, exactly. It's a great tool.
I would love to give it a try if you'll ever make it for the not for the businesses, but rather for the, well, individual, for the household.
Absolutely.
All right, but right now it's all working. Can you tell me if the presentation is on?
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So creating the budget and forecasting is a great way how to keep track on whatever you expect to see from the year, but without having a spend control over the operational expenditure, over the day-to-day expenses, might be quite challenging on the later stages. If you don't know where exactly you're spending your money on today, then it will be much, much harder to keep control over the budget for the full financial year. And that is exactly where ApprovalMax fits into the game. So briefly about what is ApprovalMax and where we came from. About 7 years ago, in 2016, ApprovalMax was founded, and since that time, we became quite a big part of both Xero's and QuickBooks Online ecosystems. These days, we are also integrated with Oracle NetSuite and with the Adhere inventory. So in case you're working with these accounting platforms, we can now support them as well. But coming back to, let's say, to Xero or QuickBooks Online, we've been there for 7 years already. And if you'll take a look on the Xero Marketplace, for instance, you will find more than 270 plus 5-star rating reviews from the customer and partners who is using our product on the day-to-day basis. At the same time, ApprovalMax became Xero App Partner of the Year twice already, once in 2020, second time in 2021. So we're quite proud of these awards. However, what do we do? Well, if we'll take a look on some of the companies out there, we'll see that the vast majority of them are still using some outdated and redundant ways of approving their financial documents. Some coming from the dinosaur age, still printing out the paper, purchase orders and the bills, and they would physically go and receive a physical stamp on their bill and send it via postal mail. Some went a bit further and they start using emails, which is okay if you're maybe a still smaller team of approvers. But once your team is getting larger and larger, that's where you'll find all of these different challenges, because you need to keep track on whatever been approved versus not. You need to send all of these multiple notifications to all of your approvers. You need to know if the coding is correct and if the payments were made on time. And that is exactly what ApprovalMax is trying to resolve here. Our main goal is to completely eradicate any need for email or paper-based approval systems. The way we're doing that is by creating a multi-step, multi-level approval workflows. Let's this word not confuse you. A workflow is nothing more than just a sequence of approval steps where we'll assign all of our decision makers to specific criteria based on the amount, based on the nominal codes, based on the tracking categories, and so on, so on. And once we build the workflow, the whole process becomes much more secured because, first of all, we don't need to have any of our users in Xero in the first place. They will be all doing their work within ApprovalMax, but at the same time, much more convenient because you can do your approvals on the go via our mobile app or through our email notifications, or simply by logging into your account. Or from an accountant or a bookkeeper perspective, ApprovalMax will automatically generate an audit reports, which shows you who made the decision, why they've made it, and when they've made it. And you can always keep track on whatever has happened to each and every request by looking at the audit trails and customizable reports. Now, the thing that I want to talk about today, mainly some specific tool within ApprovalMax itself, it is called a budget check-in feature, which will allow you to keep control over your expenditure by pulling the budgets from your Xero account, So your approvers in real time will be able to compare budgets against the request they're seeing and the request that they're approving. So rather than doing these blind approval decisions and maybe asking your budget holder if we're still okay to approve it, your approvers can make real life decisions based on the actual data, based on the budget that you've enabled for them and provided for them. So with that being said, let's go into the actual demo of the product and see the way it works in action. So what we're seeing right now, it's one of my zero connected approval workflows, but in case I've seen from the poll, some of you are working with QuickBooks Online, you will find pretty much exactly the same thing for the QuickBooks Online organization. We have different approval workflows for different types of your financial documents, for your purchase orders, for bills, credit notes, batch payments, sales invoices, and so on. Technically speaking, all of these workflows are pretty much exactly the same thing. It is just a canvas of your organization where you can build up as many approval steps and assign your decision makers for different criteria. So if I'll take a look at my bill approval workflow here, this one was already created by me. I already been working on this one, so I will explain you in a second what are we seeing here. That is one of my organizations where I have two approval steps, where each and every bill should at first go to one of my head of departments. And if I'll take a look inside into my approval matrix, you'll see what I'm talking about. Because each person here, they are one of my head of departments, and they all assign to specific criteria. In my Zero account, I do have two tracking categories, department and location. So what I've done here, I've assigned that if a bill came from the CSM department, it should be sent to Kate for her approval. Same goes for finance, same goes for IT. Second approval step that I have here, it's the board approval step. So probably these guys, they don't really need to approve smaller amounts. So within my approval matrix, I have defined that these guys should be only included into approval workflow if a bill is over or equal to £30,000. But the beauty of ApprovalMax that you can start with very simple workflow and then expand it and scale it to a very, very complex one. You can easily click on the plus sign. It will create an approval step for you. You can drag it whenever you need to. You can give it a name. Let's say it's a legal department. Add a list of your approvers and assign them to specific rules. Let's say our legal department will be approving things for the direct expenses and general expenses, and maybe everything that is between £1,000 to £5,000. Just like that, within a couple of seconds, we can build up a very complex workflow. Now, speaking about the budgets and how our users would see what budgets are available for them, there is one very specific tool here available within our ProMax account. From the main menu, if I'll scroll all the way down to the budget check-in feature, you will find how easy is that to configure these budgets. Just simply pull them from zero and automatically via API will bring all of the budgets that you have back in your Zero Budget Manager. Select which budget you would like to activate. So overall budget here is deactivated for the moment, but my product department budget is already activated. I can change my budget check period. It might be that I want to show to my users only a monthly budget, or maybe a financial year, or maybe year to date, or now we have also a 5-year budget check feature. Once it's activated, the whole process for our users, once they log into their account and once something will be awaiting their approval, will be quite simple. So let's say I've got, which one? Let's say I've got this bill which came from Hilton. It was sent from Zero. So straight away here on the bottom of the screen, I will find a budget check-in feature, which shows me which budgets correspond to that particular request. If there is any tracking categories that being used, it will only show me the budget for that particular tracking category and for that particular account code. Like here, for example, I have account code sales. Therefore, it will only show me the budget for the same nominal code. It will show me what's the remaining budget, what's the impact of the bill that I'm approving right now, and what's the status of the budget. Here, as you can see here, I've already much over the budget. Therefore, it will be some sort of indication for me. Either I can make this approval decision, or I should reject it and send it back to Zero and maybe postpone it until the next month. In case I would like to understand a bit more about the budget that I'm seeing, I can always click on the budget itself, see what's happening here, what is my overall budget, what is the remaining budget, how many bills and purchase orders I've already approved, and how many of them are on approval. And same goes for month by month expenditure. So it really gives the power of understanding the budget to our approvers in real time so they will know exactly what they need to do. And if we're happy with what we're seeing, we'll just simply click on approve, and this decision will be sent either to the next person in line or straight away into zero, where the amount of the bill will be deducted from the budget and the new data will appear for the next request. That is, on the general level, the way ApprovalMax works. Now, if I'll go back into my presentation, the next thing I want to talk about would be just to wrap up whatever we've discussed today, and then we'll move on to our questions. So the first thing, some of the useful tips, Harry, perhaps I would like to hand it over to you to speak about reviewing the budgets on your regular basis.
Yeah, absolutely. As we touched on, I think earlier on, being able to obviously a budget has always traditionally been sort of static, may sort of make people lean towards not checking it as often as they should. But actually, with being able to sort of have now a comparison of regular updates with as the actual data comes through as a forecast, you can really sort of compare. Okay, well, actually, we may have missed budget for the first 1 or 2 months, but if we sort of cut costs here, whatever it may be, we're actually going to be back on track quite nicely for the rest of the financial year. So that's where the power comes in. Definitely reviewing it regularly, and just basically helping you out as much as possible.
Yeah, and also or sometimes overestimating the expenses might be also quite a nice idea. So it definitely won't be harmful. And especially if you are a little bit familiar with the civil engineering, they do have a special term called the opinion on the estimated costs, where they will add all of these different variables such as human labor costs, such as materials, and so on and so on. And they would create a plan before they will even start a building. Because if you're running out the budget, this estimation of whatever to expect and then adding some more on top of that might give you a clear understanding of what to expect later on throughout the path. So overestimating the expenses might be quite a nice idea to work with.
Yeah, and then the third point, setting up an emergency fund. As I said during the demo, it's been more relevant than ever in the last sort of 2-3 years. Having a sort of money put aside for anything that could really pop up and damage your business, and you really do need to sort of budget for unforeseen circumstances and make sure that you have that money set aside to be safe and still keep going and making money as a business. So it's key.
Also breaking down the budget by the department and the whole idea of shrinking the budget into small little bricks where you will have clear understanding of what is happening under each and every division that you're working with, how much money do they spend. So later on throughout the year, if some of the departments spending a bit more, you can always reallocate some of these budgets and you will really have much greater control over the expenditure across the actual organization rather than you're just having an overall budget which won't show you and won't give you just enough understanding on each and every little piece. And of course, using the right tools, something that our main topic for today's discussion would be a last tip. And creating your perfect app stack is a very important thing to do at the beginning of this new financial year. Now, I will run the last poll just to understand your preferences in terms of the communication. So if you would like to hear a bit more about the ProMax, Fathom, or both, or you don't want to hear about us at all, just make your vote here. This one is always scares me because when you run this, I was always thinking, what if everyone will just say no? But it's never actually happened. All right, we have 65%, a few more. All right, I think I will end the poll here and we can move to the next topic, which is just for you to know that both Fathom and ApprovalMax, we do have 14 days free trial. So give it a try, no credit card required. You can play around with the workflows. You can make sure that these products working for you. In case you have any questions or you'll need any assistance, you can always approach either ourselves, myself or Harry, or our support team. We're working 24 hours, 5 days a week, so we'll be more than happy to assist you with implementing these technology into your day-to-day business. Now, the last part would be the questions and answers. I already can see that there is lots of questions waiting for us. I hope some of them were already answered. So let's take a closer look. Mm. All right, one question for ProMax that I can see straight away. How would you suggest preparing monthly management accounts when a lot of invoices related to that month are still pending approval in ApprovalMax? Well, if that's the question to ApprovalMax, you can actually build up the reports within ApprovalMax itself. So therefore, you'll have clear understanding of what is awaiting approval and what is already approved. But also as an option, in case you're working, let's say if you're using HubDoc or if you're just manually creating your invoices in Xero itself, then you will find these requests back in Xero and ApprovalMax. So you can utilize both of these options. Therefore, you can build up these reports both in Xero, Fathom, and ApprovalMax. If we're talking about creation of the bills or sending that from Dex directly, then you can build up the report within ApprovalMax itself for everything that is pending approval. And once it's approved, it then goes into Xero, and then that's where Fathom can pick it up.
I can see one at the top there. So could we add budget forecast for various projects for different users within a company without affecting the overall company budgets? So as it stands at the moment, we don't pull in the we don't build budgets or forecasts on a project level. However, in terms of divisions and sort of tracking category sort of level data, Fathom are working on something as we speak. So basically stay tuned for anything that does come out of that. So it was a very sat on the fence answer, but hopefully that's helped a little bit.
In ApprovalMax, can you make a workflow where there is an either approver? Either John or Paul can approve a particular department spend. Haven't been able to work that out. Yes, absolutely. If you'll take a look in the workflow, you will find that under each and every approval step, there is a little line called approval condition. Probably at the moment it is set to all in your case. So click on all, it will give you a new window where you can just select it's gonna be all or any of. And that's where you can select a number of approvers, and that should resolve the issue that you're having right now.
So can Fathom report on a consolidated budget and forecast? So yes, basically we can both build a consolidated budget and forecast in Fathom. So you create obviously the consolidation in Fathom, you pull in the entities, you group them all together, and then in the same functionality, it's exactly as you saw, you can build that that consolidated budget and forecast and then report on that and see the sort of actuals versus budget on a consolidated level.
Mm-hmm. In ApprovalMax, can approval workflow be configured at a Xero tags level rather than by nominal codes? What do you mean by tags? Is it some kind of a new feature in Xero? Because I'm not yet familiar with what are these tags. If that is the tracking categories, then of course, no problem at all. So just to, if I'm not familiar with tags, I'll give you an answer of what is available and how you can build up the workflows. It might be based on the amount thresholds or a combination of different things. Requesters, suppliers, tracking categories, nominal codes, items that you're purchasing, and taxes. Yes, tracking categories. Perfect. Tags are in Pleo. That's why I was like confused. Where is that coming from? So yes, no problem at all. If you have one or two tracking category, you will find both of them or one of them, depending on your setup, in your ProMax account, and you can build up the workflow based on that information.
Justin, your question, I'm assuming it's probably for Fathom. So yeah, in terms of the forecast side of things, yeah, as the actual data comes in, it's the forecast is always rolling from the sort of last completed month of actuals. However, as saving it as a budget, if you didn't want things to update, once you save it as a budget, it's saved and won't be updated without you wanting it to. But equally, if you do want it always updating, then yeah, absolutely no problem.
I see there is so many questions in the chat, but it's so hard to navigate over there. And I see that some of these questions were already answered. And thank you your support team on the back. I hope pretty much everything there was answered. I think
I'm happy as well, obviously, to if anyone does want a bit more in-depth detail, obviously can hopefully be in touch and go through it offline as well. So
same thing, yeah. So I think we can wrap it up here. In case you have any additional questions, feel free to reach out to us. In case we forgot to answer something from the chat section, because it's really hard to see if there is something missed, don't worry, promise you we will come back to you shortly and send you an extra email explaining the way it works. So with that being said, first of all, let me stop sharing the screen. First of all, thank you very much for joining and attending today's webinar. I hope that was useful. I hope that you find some great insights. Thank you very much, Harry, for being here with us and for all the great insights you provided to us. Yeah, have a lovely rest of the day and bye-bye, everyone.
Thanks very much. See you later, everyone.